This is Change Your Mindset Podcast, the podcast that helps change your life by helping change the mindset of the 99% into the 1% mindset. Here's your host, Adrian Gomez.
Welcome back to another podcast episode of Change Your Mindset. As always, I'm your host, Adrian Gomez. As the title says, are you prepared for what's to come? I'm not saying any of this is going to happen. This is not fearmonger, but it would be foolish to not prepare if any of these does happen. Because the majority of people never prepare for anything. Like I said, a lot of people just live in a bubble, don't even know what's really going on in this world. And I hope none of these happen. But unfortunately, we don't live in a fantasy world. This is reality, and you gotta prepare for what's to come if things do happen. First topic we're getting to, World War III. Is it possible? Of course. Right now, we're fighting a proxy war with Russia. Right now, we're supporting Ukraine. We're giving them money. We're giving them weapons. Whether you agree with the war or not, that's totally up to you. And the next war would probably be with China. It has already been declared if China invades Taiwan, the U.S. will step in to protect Taiwan. Obviously, that's going to lead to war. And not to include that we already forced China and Russia to be allies. And as I talked about with the BRICS currency, obviously they want to overthrow the dollar because they're pretty much tired of the U.S. and printing money. And there's a lot of countries that are feeling that exact same way. And recently in the last podcast, I said France is now trading with China, and France was one of our biggest allies. Slowly we're losing allies, and countries are forming together that are against the United States. And obviously these people are anti-America, anti-capitalism, democracy, freedom, everything this country was founded on, they are anti of it. And one of the worst things and the saddest things, we have Americans now that are anti-America. So it's not bad enough that we have other countries that probably want to start World War III with us. We have people in our own country that hate this country. And that leads into the next topic of civil war. As you know, this country is clearly divided. There's two different sides with completely different beliefs. And things aren't getting any better. We're getting more and more separated as a country. It's gone to a point where certain states have certain beliefs, policies, rules that they believe in, and they want their state to be ran that way. And whatever your state you're in, no matter how you're viewed, they will put you on that side. And nowadays, people are moving to certain states based on what they believe in, what they actually care about, what their education they want their kids to grow up with, to those states. So now we're in a situation where each state is ran differently and has different agendas. Obviously, we're getting more and more separated because we're getting divided. Certain people are going to certain areas because that's what they believe in. And this country is surely getting divided, slowly but surely. And if we're divided as a country, that is when we are the weakest. And obviously other countries know this, because if we're divided and if we ever get attacked, will we come together or will we fall because we decided to be a separated country? States called United States of America, not the separate states of America. It's unfortunate how things are ending up nowadays. We live in a bizarre world, unfortunately, but that's where we are right now. And a civil war is very possible. The next thing is, what if the world currency is no longer the dollar? Is it possible? Of course. Will it happen? Who knows? I can't predict the future, no one can. But we get so comfortable knowing, being Americans, that we have it so good in this world and so great that if the dollar is no longer the world currency, the way you live, life as you know it, would not be the same. Everything will change. We have the lives we have right now because the dollar is the world currency. If the new currency of the BRICS nation, let's say, overthrows the dollar somehow, your dollar is not worth what it used to be. All those dollars around the world will come back here, and your money will be less value, pretty much almost worthless. Are you prepared for that? and how can you combat it? If it does happen, what are you going to do? Do you have precious metals that retain the value throughout the whole world? Gold, silver, and this is not advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I would never tell you what to do. This is not financial advice. You do what you gotta do. I'm just giving you financial education, trying to prepare you if this ever does happen. Because gold and silver always maintains its wealth since the beginning of time. It's accepted everywhere. The value of it's the same around the whole world. And if you're not into that, some people are into Bitcoin. That's totally up to you. That's your decision. Some people believe in Bitcoin, some people don't. That's a decision you have to make. I'm not saying take all your money, dollars, go throw it in gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever. That's not what I'm trying to tell you to do. Personally, what I do, I have a small portfolio of precious metals that I keep just in case, worst case scenario, if it does happen, I'll be protected. Because a lot of people don't even think about stuff like this. They think the dollar will always be number one. And people like that are naive because they never prepare for the worst. And those people are the worst because those are the ones that get desperate and will do dumb things just because they're desperate. And those are the people you need to prepare for. Because people like that would do anything. If the dollar ends up being worthless, be careful because they have nothing to lose. And just to give you something to think about, the average world currency span is 94 years. So I'm going to give you a list of countries that had the world currency for certain periods of times. And obviously, throughout time, it changes. That's why I said it would be naive to think that the United States will always be the world reserve currency. Maybe it will, or maybe it will not. But it would be naive to think it will be forever. So I'm going to give you the list. From 1450 to 1530, Portugal had the world currency. From 1530 to 1640, Spain had the world currency. From 1640 to 1720, the Netherlands had the world currency. From 1720 to 1815, France had the world currency. From 1850 to 1920, Great Britain had the world currency. And since then, from 1921 to today, the United States had the world currency. Some others say it happened in 1945 after the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement. And after World War II, the U.S. basically had all the gold in the world. And because of that, countries around the world agreed to treat the dollar as an equivalent to gold. But after all that, the average world currency is around 94 years. So that's just something to think about. And next topic we're going to get into, if there is another pandemic. Obviously, is it possible? Of course. Will it happen? Who knows? But clearly we saw what happened with the most recent one. You saw how chaotic it was. What happens to people when you're not prepared? And obviously that led to food shortages for a while. You saw grocery stores, shelves were empty. You saw how chaotic people get when they're in fear. They do crazy things and no longer have morals. Not if there's even another pandemic. What if there's a food shortage? It's things you got to think about. Do you even have enough food where you live, just in case if something like that happens? Do you have enough food for your family or whoever you're with, your loved ones, whoever it is? Do you have enough food to survive a certain period of time? Because nowadays, like I said, these times are uncertain. And obviously you have to have water, clean water. And things I say stuff like this because it showed how unprepared people are when pandemics happen or anything like that ever happens. You saw how bad it gets. And obviously, the majority of people that think like everybody else, the 99% as we call them, they all think the same and they don't prepare. They live in the moment, they live life like nothing's bad ever going to happen. And that's obviously naive to do. And you saw what happened. They go crazy, they raid the stores, insane things happen. That's why you always have to be prepared. Whether things happen or not. You don't want to be one of those people in the grocery store fighting other people just for food. Because like I said, when people are desperate, they will do crazy things. So always be prepared. But that's just my 2 cents. Next topic we're going to get into is the country being invaded. Obviously, the United States has never been invaded by a foreign country. Is it possible? Like I said, of course. Will it happen? Who knows? Some people say we're already being invaded by our borders being wide open and people we even know coming into the country that technically we're getting invaded. Question is, if things get worse and if we ever get invaded, can you protect your family and your loved ones? If the police don't show up, if everything goes to chaos, will you be able to protect them? And I am about foreign invaders, even here, because in some places, criminals have more rights than you. Some places, criminals just get a ticket or they just get re-released into society. Are you able to protect your loved ones from them? Because like I said, these are crazy times. And the day it might be survival of the fittest, unfortunately. So are you able to protect your loved ones? Like I said, you can't rely on the government no matter what. I never tell you rely on the government. Majority of people do. And those are the people that end up being at risk. But never, ever rely on the government. You have to take responsibility, put matters into your own hands. Always talk about it financially. And right now, we're just talking about protecting yourself. And maybe it's not even from foreign countries, people in your society. Maybe it's protecting your loved ones from your own governments. Whether you believe it or not, it's possible. The Second Amendment is in there for a reason. It's to protect you, your loved ones, from foreign countries and from your own governments. You see it happen all the time. Look what's happening in China. Look what happens in North Korea. Those people can't ever fight back because obviously they have no rights, they have no weapons, they can't fight back. And the thing is, like I said, most people are anti-First Amendment, Second Amendment, anti-America. Those things are there to protect you. This is the greatest country in the world, and it's supposed to keep you free. Keep your freedom, keep your rights. That's what all that is there for. And don't let all this media propaganda brainwash you in thinking otherwise to get rid of it. Because when that happens, your freedom is gone. Your rights are gone. And then it will be survival of the fittest. And life as you know it will never be the same. And this will be the last topic. What if we head into a depression? Because technically we are in a recession. And after that is a depression. You know how bad a depression gets. Look at the Great Depression. What if it's even worse? There are constant job layoffs. We're printing money like crazy. We're in debt trillions and trillions of dollars. And we just keep going further in debt. The dollar's getting devalued. A lot of people are struggling just to have a daily life and be able to live financially. So what if we end up in the depression? Then what? Are you prepared for that? Are you going to be able to pay your bills? Are you going to be able to have enough money? Are you going to have enough food? And like I talked about, people get desperate. They don't have any of that. Are you able to protect your family? Because people will do crazy things during the depression. Because they have nothing to lose, like I said before. Those are the worst time. And those are the people you need to fear the most. People that have nothing to lose. Because they need to feed maybe their children, their family, or anything. They're willing to do whatever it takes. And this is why I say you have to be prepared if this ever does happen. Because the economy can collapse. Everything can get wiped out. And don't be naive because we live in the United States. Don't think just because we're the world power right now that it can't fall. The biggest empires in human history have all fallen. British Empire, Mongol Empire, Russian Empire, Qing Dynasty, all these empires fell. Rome, they've all fallen. So don't take this for granted. Don't think just because we're the world power right now that it can't fall. And anything I said is not to get you scared, to fearmonger you. It's just to be prepared. Because like I said, times nowadays are insane. Things happening nowadays, never thought I'd see them, but yeah, here we are. And I don't want you thinking like everybody else, the majority of people, because if any of these things do happen, it will be chaos, and you're just going to end up like everyone else. Obviously, this is change your mindset because you don't want to think like everybody else. You want to get ahead of everybody else. Because that's what obviously separates everybody, is your mindset. Whether you think none of this will happen, and that's up to you. But if it does happen, I don't know what to tell you. Because I sure hope none of this does happen. But I would be a fool to not believe that any of these things is not possible. Because I'd be naive and I'd live in a fantasy and think everything's going to be okay because we live in the United States. That's not how the world works. This is reality. This is real life. And you need to understand that. Because these times happening right now are very uncertain. Who knows what tomorrow's going to bring? Who knows what the future is going to bring? A lot of the stuff you hear that I talk about, you won't hear obviously on the news. You won't hear it on the TV because they don't want you to know any of this. If they told you stuff like this, they know people would panic, people would fearmonger, people would go crazy because a lot of people can't handle this. A majority of people will go insane. That's why they keep you in this bubble, make sure, tell you, feed you these lies and say everything's going to be okay, the economy is going to be fine, everything's going to go back to normal. If it doesn't, then what? You're screwed. That's going to do it for this podcast episode. Say thank you, Patreon member Blade262, for being a Patreon member. If you want to support this podcast, the Patreon link is below in the description. I appreciate it and thank you as always. Appreciate you guys listening to this podcast episodes, taking time out of your busy day. I always appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe on whichever platform you're listening to keep up to date with new episodes. I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you to the ones that share these podcast episodes with other people. Helps the podcast grow and reach more people than I can ever do by myself. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. I wish you the very best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Change Your Mindset podcast. Be sure to tune in every week for a new episode. As always, change your mindset to change your life.